did get a little shit talky last night with with Judge Joe Brown. We that's what we're here for. We're here to bring the profound and the profane. We bring information and we bring jokes. But today we are bringing information. We are bringing care and concern because there's a lot of things that go on underhanded in society that go over our heads, and so we like to bring details to some of these stories. My special guest today is Dr. I got my alarm over here. I got the alarm ringing that's telling me to start the show on time. Ain't that crazy? With me, I have my special guest, Dr. Carmen Johnson. Welcome, Dr. Johnson. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being a part of our broadcast today. We have Dr. Johnson here because as y'all know, people who watch the show regularly, I used to do mortgage back in the day, back when I was in college. As a matter of fact, mortgage is how I paid my way through college, cash. I don't have no, and I thank the mortgage industry for that, even though I don't do it no more. It gave me a way to get through college without owing any debt. But a concern that I had was there was a lot of things going on in the mortgage industry at the time. You had Bear Stearns, you had Countrywide, you had all the major mortgage companies doing all of these unscrupulous things, literally creating mortgages that were designed for people to lose their homes in the next 2 or 3 years so we can get them back. They sent our country into bankruptcy, into a major decline. The country's credit rating went down for the first time ever in 2009 because of what went on. And we had a guy named Steve Mnuchin in office, that's in office now as a Treasury Secretary, who back then was a president of One West Bank, and he basically had thousands of documents showing that he illegally foreclosed on over 80,000 homes. If you want to know more of the details, Judge Joe Brown talked about it last night. I said all that to say this. There was a lot of things going on, but none of those people faced any kind of jail time, any kind of anything. What they did under Obama's watch, while he was president, was go after the little guys. They went in and they pressed charges on people who did things that basically all mortgage officers do to get the loan, did at the time to get loans approved. It seems that only the black ones were prosecuted. And here I have with me Dr. Carmen Johnson, who was one of the people that were caught up in those Department of Justice sweeps. So we're going to hear her story, and we also go at the end find ways that we can help her solve her issues, because here at this show, we don't just talk to talk, we talk to bring solutions to whatever we're talking about. So welcome again, Dr. Carmen Johnson. Can you just give them a quick intro as to who you are, then we'll get right into it.
I am the former housing chair for Prince George's County, Maryland NAACP, and then I became the former housing chair for the NAACP conference, state conference of Maryland. And I was trying to investigate the illegal or wrongful foreclosures that was running through the Black communities in the state of Maryland. First Prince George's County, and then it spread out through the whole state of Maryland. Mm-hmm. And I came across a lot of information that showed that, it was people in high places that was involved with these foreclosures that were happening. Mm-hmm. The county was involved, the state was involved, politicians were involved, the judges were involved. It was those illegal foreclosures or wrongful foreclosures were politically driven and at the backs of my people, at the backs of our people. Mm-hmm. You have to understand, me as a woman of color, I've always heard the rumors that Black men don't marry Black women. Mm-hmm. Black men only make babies with Black women, and don't make nests or homes with them. Well, these were Black families. These were husbands and wives and children.
Mm-hmm.
My concern was the fact that it wasn't just the illegal or wrongful foreclosures, it was the fact that they were destroying Black families.
Mm-hmm.
That was huge to me. But moving along, finding out how this machine was actually working, I became a target. I was hit. It got to the place where I was asking the NAACP for bodyguards, and that I was being followed and ran off the road, and they were coming in my homes and coming in my home and things of that nature. And they would not. They would not protect me. And I forgive them. I just don't fool with them any longer. But it hurt me to the core because I heard the rumors about NAACP, but because I was an executive there, because I was head of, I was the housing chair for the state of Maryland NAACP conference, there was no doubt that they would not protect me or back me. But I also was green to the fact of how this foreclosure engine was really ran and who was behind it. And it cost me my life. It was a deadly game, it was a financial game. And these promissory notes were being traded on Wall Street. And so, your name that you signed to get your home was being traded. Not to mention, it's still being traded today, because most of us signed 25 to 30-year notes, you know. So, not to mention, then when they did the foreclosures on the person that bought the house or was buying the house, then that's another bag or another money making aspect of it. It got to the point, it was how dangerous it was. And I received a phone call from the most powerful man in the state of Maryland asking me to go back on the news because I was spearheading a campaign to get a moratorium to freeze these illegal foreclosures or wrongful foreclosures that was going on in the community. I even was calling judges' chambers saying, you got a house that's being getting ready to be sold, and you need to go out there and get it because it's illegal. You need to stop the sale or the auction. It was an auction of that home, and they were pulling those homes back. So I became a threat. I didn't want to be a threat. I was just trying to help with Black families that was being thrown in the streets.
Yeah, and that's you were doing your like. And for people listening, I heard stories like this when they were going on, and that's why another reason why I had to have Dr. Johnson on because I need to hear some stuff up close and personal from someone who went through it. But from my end in California, it was going on in California. It was going on nationwide. Black families through their housing boom of 2003 through about 2008 were being targeted for bad loans, and then from 2009 to about 2013 14, well, it's really still today, but it was really much more intense back then during that period. They were being targeted for foreclosure and illegal foreclosure. And again, like I tell people before, this is all under President Obama's watch. Dr. Johnson's out there in Prince George's County. That's literally under his nose. So it happened from as close as you can get under his nose to as far west as California. This was something that was big that we all knew about. People always say, okay, why is the hood getting gentrified? Well, the major reason why hoods are really getting gentrified now more than they ever have before is because of what happened during those years, because of all those illegal foreclosures, because of the trick bag language they put within the information. A lot of Black people lost homes. So people always want to be these respectability politics judges saying, well, the Black person should have did this. The black person should have did that. Let me tell you something. For those of us who were giving the loans, we couldn't explain the shit in that paperwork. Like the title companies couldn't explain it. No, like along the whole daisy chain. I worked in the mortgage banking side, so I wasn't the direct loan person, but the direct loan agent, people I was giving the loans to couldn't explain it. Me being the banker, when we would get these loans from not from Goldman Sachs, but from Bear Stearns and all these other companies, their representative couldn't clearly explain the stuff from us. The title companies, no one along the line could really explain what was going on. We just knew if we pushed these loans, we was gonna get 3-4 points on the back end, and then people was gonna have a house. We didn't know that there was a setup. And then once the setup was done, only the black ones were prosecuted and went to jail under and what makes it even more so, like I said again, it's under our black president. When he had Loretta Lynch, when he had all these people that could have gone after these companies, here in California we had Kamala Harris. Didn't do nothing, but they want to go ahead and attack us. You had to go to prison, to jail over this, Dr. Johnson. Please describe your experience and what was it like when you were first arrested?
Well, I was raided 3 different times, and I just kept. Well, first of all, like I said, I was receiving phone calls from powerful people in Maryland for me to stop the campaign. I was all over the news, asking for a moratorium to freeze these foreclosures, up a commission. I want to sit on on that board to find out why these foreclosures are happening, what was the grounds of these foreclosures, and things of that nature. I was threatened, and I was told, I was ordered to go back on the news to say that Maryland did not have any issues of foreclosures, and I refused. I sent out a couple of letters under the NAACP's letterhead to powerful people in Maryland, and they responded back to me and my nonprofit. And I couldn't understand, why are they responding back to me and my nonprofit when I signed this clearly under the NAACP and my title as the NAACP. I was getting calls in the middle of the night, being called the N-word. I would see white men taking pictures of me. I was being followed by the bank investigators. I was being followed by the feds. I even received a report that was put at my office door, and it was a little less than 1,000 pages, or around 1,000 pages. And it was a person, and I can't remember the person's name, but he spoke in front of the Senate on how these foreclosures were happening. So the Senate was fully aware of what was going on. I don't know who sent me the report, but I read the report page by page. Back then, I never was going to tell it, but I understood what I was reading and who all was involved. That's what made it even more dangerous. Like I said, I was all over the news, so I know, on different news stations. So I know President Obama saw me on the news, you know what I'm saying? As well as these powerful white men in the state of Maryland saw me. But it's so emotional. They slid me in a real mortgage, bank, and wire fraud case with 14 people that was not from the United States, but they lived in the United States. And they slid me in a case with them. All 14 of these people took a plea. I knew of 2, which were realtors. And my for-profit company offered credit restoration, debt arbitration, financial planning, preparation for bankruptcy, rehabilitation after bankruptcy, identity fraud services, we also paid off people's debts that was on their credit reports. So when we paid those debts off, the people would pay us back. And we reported this debt or this personal loan to the credit agencies, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, along with reporting our services as well. I mean, that's what we do. So they slid me in this real mortgage fraud case. They all took a plea. I did not. I was not aware of these homes or anything like that. I had nothing to do with it. I was devastated. My attorneys, I had like 3 different attorneys or 4 different attorneys at different times because I had to keep firing them because they were trying to force me to take a plea. 2 of them looked like you and I. And all the attorneys, when they first took the case, they would say, this is some bull crap. We can beat this. This doesn't make sense. They understood what was happening. Mm-hmm. After a few months or a few weeks later, they started pressing me to take a plea. I even had a judge, not my judge in my case, but a judge in Prince George's County step down off the bench, go to his chambers, take his robe off, walk through the courts, go get in his car, drove to my office and begged me to take the plea. And at that particular time, that last plea was for 10 and a half years. So at first they were saying I was looking at 30 years. And I refused to take the pleas back then. So then this last one was 10 and a half years. And this judge begged me to take the plea. And I told him I could not lie on myself and say that I did something that I did not do. Mm-hmm. The judge told me that in my office, that he admired my strength, but he was afraid of what they were going to do to me. And I told him that I was afraid also. But I could not, it didn't make sense to me to lie on myself and say I did bank, mortgage, and wire fraud when that's not true. That didn't make sense to me. But I am aware that my people do that. This is why they have a 98% success rate. It's not that they're winning, it's the fact that they are pressing people to take pleas for things that they did not do. Anyway, I went to trial. Trial found it before that. I had a nervous breakdown because I was also, like I said, being followed, being run off the road, getting phone calls in the middle of the night, getting phone calls at my office. I mean, and I lived alone, and I was alone. I couldn't handle it. It was court ordered that I see their therapist. Their therapist had me taking something called Klonopin. Klonopin is only supposed to be taken for 3 months in my research. What I just realized, in the last few years of my research, they had me on Klonopin for about 18 months.
Oh shit!
I couldn't function, but it was weird. I was able to function enough to continue the fight for our people, because that was the most important thing, was to fight for these Black families. But in my personal life and what I was going through, I just couldn't function. I mean, I would stand at my window all night watching these men. Think that they thought that I didn't see them, but I would see them. They would be watching my home.
That has to be super nerve-wracking.
It was scary, and I had to experience it by myself. I ended up going to trial. The jury found me guilty. The jury of my peers, supposed to be, found me guilty on 24 counts of mortgage, bank, and wire fraud. Before trial started, my judge in my case is a young brother who went to Morehouse. His grandfather, I hear, was an activist. However, he gave the instructions that I was not allowed to talk about my character, my activist work, my humanitarian work, the foreclosures, the campaign that I was doing. He gave a long list of things that I was not allowed to talk about, which crippled me because the only thing they talked about was stuff that I did not know anything about. The two head realtors both testified against me. However, they both said she's not part of our community. She had nothing to do with our scam and is in the transcripts. She did not financially benefit, but one of them said, but she worked on our client's credit. And the other one said, but she knew we were realtors. So that was all what they said. And it was just so confusing to me because I knew that it was no way that a jury was going to find me guilty, especially sitting there looking at these documents, these mortgage documents that I knew nothing about, that I had never seen before, that I knew nothing about. And with those two realtors saying what they said, it was just no way they can find me guilty. But they did. They arrested me immediately at trial. Some of my witnesses were told to not come. They was going to speak on my behalf. They were told not to come to the court. Some was stopped at the courthouse, and which I did not know. I didn't find that out until I came home in 2018. In 2019, when people found out that I was home, they were telling me, I was told not to come, that they didn't need my testimony and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I needed you. I needed so many people. But anyway, they arrested me at the 24th count. Marshals jumped over the chairs. They circled me in the courtroom. The prosecutor said that I was a terrorist, that I was ISIS, that I was a threat to the county, that I was a threat to the state of Maryland, and they had to get me off the street immediately. And I never went back home.
Wow. And so for people out there, like I said, I can attest to something like this. I remember there was a house that I bought back in the mid 2000s, and there was something that went along with the people who owned the mortgage company, who I had no clue. I don't know. When you buy something, you don't know the business of the people who own the company. You just know the agent you're dealing with. That owner was doing some shady stuff, and when the person that I bought the house from filed a complaint, I had to go to court and defend myself, not based on anything that I did, but because that lawyer successfully tied me into the owner of the company I did business with, even though I never met the owner of the company. And look, we do business with companies all the time whose owners and CEOs got shady stuff going. How are we supposed to know? We do a transaction and we out. But these court systems have ways of tying you in with people you've never heard of, never seen, but you have to now pay to defend your actions against somebody you've literally never had an interaction with. So those are some of the traps that these court systems can involve us in for those who are listening. I have a question. Do you feel that you were targeted, and why?
Well, first, before I answer that, the most dangerous statute on the book is conspiracy. That is the most dangerous because it's knowingly or unknowingly. Well, what the heck is that? Like that could be, I could say hi to the postman not knowing he's stealing mail, and then because I said hi, they didn't drug me in. That's just an example. That conspiracy is a dangerous thing. Something to be done with that. But yes, I know emphatically that I was targeted. And I was targeted because I was trying to keep Black families together. So it ran bigger than those homes. It was the fact that I was trying to keep Black families together.
And
so I was targeted.
And when she said she was keeping Black families together, it's because you saved a lot of Black people from losing their homes, didn't you?
800 and something.
Ooh, see? That's what happens. It seems to be a consistency when people, when us get targeted. Here in LA, it was something similar. There was a man named Dr. Brazil out here in LA. And if you're my age, if you're a millennial or Generation X and you grew up in LA in the 80s and the 90s, there was a man named Dr. Brazil who helped Black kids get the financial aid forms filled out properly, who put us in position to go to college, taught the information that they wouldn't teach in school. But basically, all he did was tell people to put, people will put whatever they would put on their incomes so they can qualify. The system found a way to say this man who was a minister, and not a corrupt minister, one of the ministers that we all say we should have, the ones who are really about the people, they found a way to say that he created some kind of fraud and sent him to jail in his elderly years. Um, so we just see something nationwide when those of us who try to help others out with through the pen, through the very thing that they disenfranchise us through, they seem to target. So I want you guys to pay close attention to what Dr. Carmen Johnson's saying, because this is all information that we need to have in the back of our minds when the media likes to publicly trash our people, because they do it to us, not to them. So yeah, just I want you guys to pay attention to that. Based on your experience, why do you feel there's a need for prison reform?
Well, first of all, based on that 1994 crime bill that President Clinton created and Mr. Biden backed, that is the nucleus of the mass incarceration of my people. Yeah, we can say this been going on for centuries, of what's happening to us, but that particular bill in my time frame affected me and has affected so many other people of color, and I have a problem with that. And I'm not Democrat or Republican, but it also scares me to think that, and people are going to get mad, but I'm speaking my truth, my understanding, being caught up in that system and in that net. I am very concerned about an ex-DA being the vice president.
Speak
And
on it.
and Mr. Biden is not a young chicken. Like, so to think that Ms. Harris could be president if something happens to him, it scares me, because I've been at the raft of the lies and the trickery and the pain and the hurt of prosecutors. They lied, they put me in a real case. And I'm not saying that she will do that, but I've heard stories where it was a lot of men of color in California that were being arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's real talk. Out here in California, it was the loan officers being arrested. It was the people who own mortgage companies being arrested. Again, like I said, while Steve Mnuchin walked, and he's now the person responsible for handing out our stimulus checks. The same person that got us in that stuff, Kamala Harris had the power literally to send to prison for the rest of his life. And the Obama administration had the power to prosecute. They didn't do it. So for those of us, if you have an issue with what Dr. Johnson is saying about her fear of having Kamala Harris in office, listen to what she's saying. She's not saying, I don't want her in there because she's a black woman. She's not saying, I don't want her in there because she isn't in. No, she's saying we don't want her in there because of policy. We have to understand that the policy that Joe Biden wrote and Kamala Harris enforced has actual physical damage and collateral damage on black society. And what you have here is a woman who faced the brunt of that. Oftentimes people say, oh no, we always, when it comes to criminality, people always want to go right to the person that robbed the bank, or they want to go right to the person that did something to somebody harmful. They say, or they'll say, well, that's because black people don't have enough money. When we have money, when we have status, it's all the same. No, Dr. Johnson is someone who worked at the very top of it when it came to the NAACP. She worked in Prince George's County is the wealthiest black county in America. People, the second richest area in black area in America is an area that I spent part of my childhood in, View Park, Ladera Heights, and we saw the same stuff here in LA. So we're talking about a woman from Prince George's County, not Watts. We're talking about someone who worked with the NAACP at some of its highest levels, not someone stealing from welfare. We're talking to a woman that was in the community helping people out, not defrauding them. And she still got caught up in the BS. So that's why when we as black people get the message that a harm to one is a harm to all, and band around that and do something about it, we can stop this. But as long as we continue to other the individual that got caught up and act as if they did something wrong and we're perfect, they're gonna keep picking us off one by one. Um, you're seeking a pardon from the president. Why are you seeking the pardon?
Well, first of all, let's go back real quick with the reform, the need for reform for prisons
Okay, go ahead.
and mass incarceration. Because I went through that process and was on the inside, two band-aids they put on that 1994 mass incarceration bill, which was the Second Chance Act and the First Step Act. And I read both of them, in which I was in, the prison camp when I read it. And based on what we were going through on the inside of there, it was a bunch of baloney.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so to put band-aids on that mass incarceration bill of 1994, that's what needs to be pulled, not putting band-aids on that.
Mm-hmm.
And to your question, I am asking the president of the United States, whether it's Trump, whether it's Biden, to investigate my case to its fullest. Then, under Article 72, grant me a full pardon. However, I am still in court. I have a paid attorney. I'm still in court. My attorney just filed a writ of error quorum nobis when you are emphatically or innocent,
Mm-hmm.
and pointing out issues that are in what happened in the courtroom. That was filed. It was denied in Greenbelt, Maryland court. So now it's in the appeals court in Virginia. I have been all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is very expensive. I don't plan on going back to the Supreme Court because I know what happened to me went all the way to the top. So it doesn't make sense for me to keep spinning my wheels and I'm not going anywhere. So I am asking the chief commanding officer of the United States, the president, whichever one wins, whichever one it is, to investigate my case. I'm not just asking for a pardon, and I'm damn sure not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking that my case be investigated, and then, based on Article 72, pardon me. The president of the United States cannot exonerate me. The president of the United States cannot vindicate me. That can only be done through the courts. I was politically hit. I've gone to the Supreme Court all the way up. I'm back in the appeals court, and I'm just spinning my wheels. So now I'm going public saying President Trump or President Biden, whoever it will be when that time comes, investigate my case, investigate what the Department of Justice did to me, and then under Article 72, grant me a full pardon.
See, what we have here is Dr. Johnson. And I want to thank everybody listening to Hotep Ish, Intelligent Ish. We are here talking to Dr. Carmen Johnson about her case, where we're trying to get an appeal from the president. Because look here, people. I know with everything going on with Ice Cube lately, y'all think that only one party can do something for black people, and that's just not true. When it comes down to business, when it comes to liberation, when it comes to getting the things that we need from our government, that's a bipartisan issue. If you're saying she's crazy for going to President Trump, look, she mentioned President Trump's First Step Act. Was it enough? Hell no. But it did exonerate. I mean, it did give a pardon to 92% of the people who got a pardon were black. So we're not talking about some unprecedented thing. Every single president that we've ever had in this country is racist. But at the same time, every single president that we've had in this country have given pardons to black people, and Dr. Johnson is someone that deserves hers, and we're talking about it and getting it clear as to why, getting people to understand that look, politics is more than going to voting every 4 years. A lot of things that you can do in between that for yourself and also to help those who look like you and your family. I have a question for you. How's this experience been?
Um, mental health in the Black community is real, and it is embedded in our DNA, in our RNA, is embedded in us. And me growing up, I never experienced the wrath because I grew up in Prince George's County, and like you said, that's ran mainly by people of color. So I didn't grow up experiencing racism until I became the housing chair. Then it got real. And I now suffer from PTSD, extreme PTSD, anxiety. When I see a white man with sunshades on, I panic. I think that that's the feds. When I see a black man with a suit on, I panic. I think that's the NAACP. If a police pull up behind me, I go into a panic. I start sweating. I can't handle it. I have to plan to leave my home. Like if I'm going to go to the grocery store, okay, I got to start planning today to get my mind right to go to the grocery store Saturday morning. And it has affected me so much. I've gotten better. I'm in therapy for the last 2 years. Every Friday, I get therapy. It's one thing to be caught up in the net of mass incarceration. Is a whole nother thing to be caught up in that net of mass incarceration and you're innocent. And I was at a camp. I was where Martha Stewart was. I was where Billie Holiday was. And I had no idea that number one, in prisons and jails and camps, they don't like people that maintain their innocence. They don't like activists. And where I was in West Virginia were extremely racist. So I had 3 strikes against me. I was a woman of color. And I was drug on the floor. I was strangled by the guards. I was put under a T5 fluorescent hot light that stayed on 24 hours a day. I was thrown in solitary confinement. I went through it. And all the while I was still fighting. Well, my family and my attorneys were fighting to get me to the Supreme Court. And ultimately we lost, which I didn't take that very well, in which the Supreme Court stated that even though she had little to do with this crime, her jury of her peers found her guilty. And what I found out going through this, what's worse than taking a plea for a crime is being held guilty by a jury of you think is your peers. That is the worst. And with the Supreme Court ruling like that, it blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. So I'm still going through it. I wake up every morning thinking that I'm still at that prison camp. Mm-hmm. It takes me a minute to pull myself together and realize I'm at home. I still go through it. I'm still dealing with it. And then, my attorney in August, when he sent me the motion that he filed in court, I couldn't get past page 2. My sisters had to read it and then give the attorney the okay to file it because I couldn't handle it. But my mission now is like I have to put to the side what my emotional state is or what my mental state is and focus on the fact that something needs to be done with that 1994 mass incarceration bill. And Mr. Biden needs to answer to what do he plan on doing about that since he backed it. I've heard him make little comments here and there, but I would like to hear more. that's really important to me right now. The fact that they still doing modern day slavery to our people.
And that's the thing. People are like, what can Joe Biden do? Look, once the law got put in place, it could be disbanded too. Just like you got put in there, it can be taken away. What are you doing to get your case reviewed by the president?
I started a petition just a few weeks ago, so we're just getting started. It took me a little while. I've been home since 2018, so it took me like a year and a half to get my mind right to even want to talk about this because it's so painful. But I also started understanding how important it is for me to tell my story because it's going to help other people. Number one, we need to start teaching our children about criminal law. We need to be studying as a family about criminal law. Number two, we must not take pleas for crimes we did not commit because we are afraid. That makes no sense to me. And number three, we need to do something, stand up together, which I feel like I'm standing by myself, but we need to do something about that mass incarceration and prison reform and that Prison Litigation Reform Act that President Clinton put together that tie our loved ones that are in jail and prisons and camps hands when they are subject to violence and abuse. And nothing can be done because of that Prison Litigation Reform Act. But for me, I put out a petition trying to get signatures for the president, the chief and commanding officer of the United States to look into my case, to investigate my case. People that are looking at my petition right now, for some strange reason, the first thing they see, and I don't know why, is President Trump, where Trump's name is not mentioned anywhere on there. So people are literally telling me, well, I'm not going to sign that because you're asking President Trump. I'm asking whatever president that's in office when that time comes to investigate my case. That's huge. You don't hear many people say in public, hey, can you investigate my case? I'm not asking for forgiveness or just for a pardon. I'm asking for my case to be investigated. And I'm crying out to my community to assist with that.
Basically, what you're hearing, people, is we need the black society to be more mature, similar to what's going on. And we see it. It's funny because Dr. Johnson's case, I mean, what she's talking about, some of her hurdles that she's jumping through, we're seeing it right now. Again, I hate to keep bringing it up, but with the whole Ice Cube plan for Black America and how a lot of black people are reacting, instead of reading through the meat and potatoes of the plan, saying, "Hey, I need my local Congress representative to do this," they're saying, "Well, he's talking to Trump." Again, hopefully for the last time, but I'm feeling it ain't gonna be my last time saying this. Every president is racist. When it comes to negotiations, most of the time you're negotiating with someone, you don't necessarily like them. It's not about who you like. It's not about what their ideologies are. It's about getting the most that you can get. Hell, when it comes to the left and right, they don't like each other. When it comes to, most countries don't like the United States, but in order to maintain civility, peace within their economies, peace within their societies, you maintain open lines of communication. And liking someone isn't a prerequisite of having an open line of communication. So when we have someone like a Dr. Johnson here, and I want you guys to sign and help help her out. I know my audience is mature enough to do this, but for those who may be listening for the first time, for those who may hear this story, be more mature than saying, okay, Trump ain't gonna do nothing. No, do your part anyway. That's really what I got to say about that. What's been your general feedback so far?
Well, like I was saying, like I've had several people, more than several, make the comment for some strange reason they just see Trump. They don't see it says to the president of the United States. Like I'm not. They just see the word Trump, and Trump is not in there anywhere, and it hurts my heart. They're not seeing my pain. They're not seeing what I've been through. They're not seeing that I'm asking for my case to be investigated. They're not seeing that. They just, for some strange reason, they're seeing President Trump, and the petition doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. I've had a brother send me a response back laughing my butt off. And I was like, well, Carmen, that's a troll. Stay focused, stay on code, stay on point, and stay focused, and know that the universe have you. So I have to remind myself of that every day, all day, that the universe have me. The feds did everything they could possibly do to me. They did everything. They dieseled me. They took me from prison, county jail, whatever you call it, to county jail, until my attorneys were able to locate me and demand that the marshals get me to my destination. When I got to that prison camp, I didn't know my name. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what happened. I wandered around that camp, asking people, had they seen the sun? I had lost it. I had literally lost it. I've been an activist for a long time. I've been a humanitarian for a long time, over 20 something years. And for something like this to happen, it just blew my mind. But in turn, I feel the pain of my people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what it feels like to be shackled from my ribs all the way down to my ankles. I know what it feels like to walk in the snow when they took my shoes barefoot. I know what it feels like to be considered as a slave. I know what that feels like. I know what that looks like. And it's my vision, my sight is going to assist with helping fight the stop of this mass incarceration on my people. And to also say, I can speak on Congressman Cummings, who's dead and gone now. He was instrumental in helping to get me out earlier than later. And
then so that's how you got out early. Okay.
Okay, and then it was a white congressman. I don't want to say his name, and it'll be in my book. And it was a white senator that helped to get me out sooner than later. So my point that I'm making is, this is the reason why we have representatives in Congress and in Senate. Like you said, you just don't vote for them and then that's it. You make them work for you. My sisters were sending them letters of the abuse, sending them documents that my attorneys was filing in the courts, letting them know, you need to help my sister. This is who she is. They were sending it to all the senators, all the congressmen. Congressman Cummings had that place raided where I was because of fraud, mistreatment of the women, lack of medical care, no mental health treatment. So I was in there doing the damn thing. So now I'm asking my people to, let's stand up for the brothers and the sisters that are sitting behind bars, jails, and cages. And we're thinking out here that there's nothing that we can do. Bullshit.
We can do something about it.
Exactly.
Just like a lot of people, that's why people like to get into, well, the slaves could have did this, well, the slaves could have did that. Why did black people stay in slavery? Why did nobody come to help? Look, this reason why, and y'all know I know my history, people, but the reason why you never see me go in on them is because we're living under the same conditions now that they were living under in 1820. If you ain't willing to go and bust nobody out of prison, like, you see why the people in 1820 wasn't willing to raid some of these plantations, and it was only a small few that were raiding the plantations and getting people out. Everyone else was saying, well, if they just would have acted better, they wouldn't have been put in that plantation. They were doing a lot of the same respectability politics then that people do now. So before you complain about what our ancestors did or didn't do back then, be the change that we need now, because we got brothers and sisters behind the wall right now that don't belong there. And even if they did commit that crime, they don't belong back there for no half of a lifetime. You got people behind jail in 30, 40 years who did something that they probably should have got 2 for, 3 for, if anything at all. And then for those who are back there who did do things, no human deserves to be treated like a subhuman. You're listening. They took the woman's shoes off in the middle of the snow. What the hell that got to do with a mortgage fraud? She's still a human being. So we have to develop a compassion to where that, even though like I'm straight laced, I've never even had a speeding ticket in my life. I like, for real. But I'm not going to be the person that goes around saying, well, the next person should have did this or should have did that. I'm going to do what I can do use whatever social equity I have to help those who spent their social equity. And if we develop that mindset, we can't get everybody. But if we can all reach back and get one or help someone else get one each, we can change this thing all around without waiting on a president. But at the same time, while we have our political representatives in office, we can make them do their damn jobs, whether we like them or not, whether they're part of our political party or not, whether we voted for them or not. They're still in office to do jobs for us, and we can do that. I got one last question for you, Dr. Johnson. Um, how can others avoid this traumatic experience from happening to them?
You can't. Before, I never had a speeding ticket. Now, let's be clear, I've been pulled over by the police, but heck, I knew the police. I knew the sheriff, I knew the captain. I knew, I had all these politicians on speed dial because I was the housing chair for the, state conference NAACP. So, I knew everybody. Prince George's County is a small, closed knit community. Not to mention the state of Maryland is a secret society community, which I later found out. But being a person of color, especially our men and our boys, is just sometimes it's just no way around it. Unless you become an attorney, but then you're working for the queen, or unless you become a state's attorney, or unless you become a prosecutor, then you become part of their game. But you never know. Like, I didn't know this was coming. I ran also a nonprofit that taught financial literacy in the schools. So I had a for-profit business that helped the community. I had a nonprofit that was teaching financial literacy. So, my books were open. My taxes were paid. I had a law firm that was my corporate attorneys for 20-something years, a CPA for 20-something years. All the taxes were paid. It wasn't no reason. I didn't see it coming. Now, if I plotted and said, okay, let me go, rob this bank, I know I could get arrested, that's something different. But that wasn't my story. So whoever has judged me or judged others that are sitting behind that wall or in that cage, that's fucked up, especially if they look like us. Because I know people that went to jail for one crack rock, and they still in jail, and it's been like 26 years.
Mm-hmm.
So let's be clear and understand what's really going on here and educate yourselves. And my God, teach our children about criminal law. Let's study as a family together about criminal law. Never talk to the police by yourself. Never talk to the detectives, investigators, prosecutors, state's attorneys, unless you got an attorney. But heck, these attorneys aren't that good. I had 3 or 4 of them at different times, and it was a disaster.
That's some really good advice. I want people to just understand that we really are in this together as Black Americans, and we have to know that we're in this together, and we have to know that these things can happen to us at any time, and the first thing we can do, like I said before, is get rid of the judgment from those that it happened to, because we're never going to get anywhere talking about what somebody else should have did, how they did it. It amazes me how people, once one person gets caught in the crosshairs and gets the heat from people, everyone else all of a sudden know how they should have did it, what they should have did, who they should have talked to. Man, leave that shit alone, people. Man, we ain't got time for that. Only thing we can do is solve the problems that we have in front of us now. And nobody's better than somebody else based on their record, credit score, and all the other superficial things that we tend to be petty about as a people. Dr. Johnson, please give us any of your closing thoughts, anything that you want to say, anything that you want to let them know about, or how to contact you, and what they can do to help. The floor is yours.
I think I just want to add one more thing, that, we need to do something about reentry programs that are set up for people coming home. I don't like the word returning citizens, but that's what it's called. But something needs to be done with that. That is a disaster as well. The only other thing is, I think that we need to learn to love ourselves and to love each other, because I matter, you matter, the audience matter, everyone that look like us, you and I, we matter. You know what I mean? And I think that we should stay on code and stay on track and stay focused and wake up and stay woke and sign my petition. Thank you.
Where can we find the petition?
Is on the website carmenstory.org, CarmenStory.org, carmenstory.org.
For those of you watching on YouTube, the website is right above her. You see her name, then right above that is the website. So don't say you couldn't find it. You also see Dr. Carmen's Johnson's email address if you need to contact her, if you need to help her any sort of way. We have the website up. Please sign the petition. I'm going to sign it myself. And I really thank you again, Dr. Johnson, for coming on and telling us your story. Because I told you before, I'm always following news, and I remember hearing these stories. And so it's great to hear from someone directly involved, because unfortunately you had to go through what you went through, but you're still fighting. You didn't let it kill your spirit. The people in the chat room, they love you. They're all supportive in the chat room. We have we have over 80 people chatting across all in the chat room, across all platforms. I want everyone to sign the petition, share the petition, and know that each one teach one. We here, pass the story around, let people know, because that's what we're here for. And Dr. Johnson's still fighting, she's still winning, and she's showing the spirit that we have here as Black Americans. No matter what we go through, we stand up, we stay, and we fight. That's what we do. Oftentimes we fight our own people to get to them. If we can stop fighting our own people to get to them, we win a lot sooner. But we still stay and we fight. So again, I want you guys to remember this, as I always say before we end every episode. There are no perfect messengers, only perfect messages for those who are willing to pick up the game. So be willing to pick up the game. Go to hotepish.com, get your t-shirts. We have the Hotepish t-shirt. Get that. It fits really well. I love it. Get your Scholars t-shirt. Fuller, Clark, Welsing, Van Sertima, Binyakinen. People buy athletic jerseys all the time with an athlete they ain't done nothing for them on their back. Put the information and the names of the people who put something in your brain on your chest. Thank you for listening. Thank you again. And thank you again, Dr. Johnson, for sharing your story. And sign the petition, people. Thank you.
Thank you.